I've done this with the youth. It's been 4 or 5 years ago, or maybe a little more, I'm not sure, on Wednesday night, but I thought this would be a good time to go through this class with some folks at church. Some of them, I'm sitting here with Tracy, of course, in person. Some of them are going to be sort of a split screen, and we'll be able to put it together that way and interview them on from two different places. But the class is called Faith at Work, and a lot of times we sort of sit in a Bible class and talk about the Bible, which is a good thing. But we talk about the Bible and try to tie it to application as best we can. And sometimes we do that in a good fashion, and sometimes maybe in a not as good fashion. But sometimes it's a little challenging. But as we look at this class, and as I interview people, I'll be interviewing different people and getting their perspectives on their work. The play on words, of course, is faith at work. So the first part of the interview, we'll be talking about their work, what they do. Some of you may know, some of you may not know. So I think it'll be kind of interesting from that perspective too, getting to know people in a way that you normally don't hear them or get to know them and get to see them. Anyway, talk about a little bit about their education, about their work, how they got their job, what they do from day to day, kind of a general description of that. And then as we kind of lay that background, we'll transition over to talking about their faith and how their faith affects their work. So, temptations, challenges, being around Christians, being around non-Christians, how that can help and challenge and those type things. So we're trying to, like I said, connect our faith and how that plays out in the workplace. So I know some of you may be retired and not working anymore, but I think there's some principles that we can all glean from this. Young people hopefully will be watching this and maybe learn. That's why I did it with the youth class. Learn, maybe someone has a particular job that you have interest in and maybe one day pursuing, and you'll find out that you can talk to them about that. But also just in general, some lessons to learn about going into the workplace and how your Christian faith can influence those things. So I think it'll be helpful for everyone. So of course, Tracy's here. Most of you probably watching know Tracy Williams, but
Hello.
If you don't, this is Tracy Williams and one of our deacons here at the church. And like I said, he's kind of been briefed on what we're going to do, but it'll be kind of an interview back and forth a little bit as we talk about this. So hopefully you'll enjoy this series. Like I said, I'll be doing it with different folks, and we'll be doing these on Wednesday night. I'll be uploading them for you to view on Facebook Live, and also we'll put it on the YouTube page as well. So anyway, Tracy, what sort of your education background? Just give us a brief introduction to that before we get into what you actually do now.
Okay, well, in high school, I took a technical class for air conditioning, refrigeration, and major appliance repair. And then I've got a Bachelor of Business Administration degree from Lamar University. And so that kind of led me toward this path that I'm on right now. Had a heavy concentration in marketing and advertising when I was in college. So communications and those kind of things is what I was striving for.
Oh, okay. So the actual, because you work on, what do you do? You tell me
what I do today now.
You kind of merge all those things together.
Yeah, to merge all those together. What I do now is I'm in outside sales or account manager for industrial refrigeration. I work for a company called Johnson Controls, and we do HVAC and process refrigeration. Well, my background, having learned how to work on some refrigeration and having worked in that industry for a little while, led me to this point. I had a couple of jobs prior to this, but I've been doing sales work or this type of work in this industry for about 27 years. And so that's kind of what I was doing. Before that, I worked some construction work still within the refining and chemical plant industry, but I've been doing this in sales for, well, I guess 26 years exactly.
Oh, okay.
Right now.
How many companies have you worked for in 26 years?
Two.
I knew of two. I didn't know if it was two.
I worked with a rental company first, and I was doing a similar thing. It was just on a temporary basis as far as with the customer. I worked for them for 17 years, and I've worked for Johnson Controls for 9.
Okay. What's an average day I know there's not an average, kind of like a policeman, there's not an average day probably, but yeah. Kind of on an average day, what happens most of the time as far as sales and how many people do you interact with kind of on a day-to-day basis?
On a day-to-day basis, I probably interact with 10 people to a dozen people a day. Sometimes that's customers. Sometimes it's a mix between customers and internal. The thing we learn as a salesperson, and any of you in sales out there that are listening to this will know we've got internal customers that work for our company, and then we've got our external customers that we deal with. But probably 10 to 12 a day is who I deal with. And that can be working through customer needs and figuring out what we have to offer that gives them the right solution for their needs. And also internally, that could be anything from getting the job going with the right personnel and the right people to collections issues or problems with jobs and those kind of things. It can be it could be just about any of those items.
Yeah, so you don't know who you're going to talk to potentially. Or I guess trying to find new customers.
Yeah, you're trying to find new customers, trying to find the new opportunity. In sales, the word that we always go by is what's in your pipeline. What are you working on
the way,
for the future, so that everybody can justify their existence. So we're working through that. My office, internal office, every day at the office has probably about 12 to 14 people there, and then we've got about 60 mechanics that travel the area.
Good number. I didn't. Yeah. I knew your office was about 10 or 12. But that's a lot. I guess they got a lot of equipment out in the field. So
and our guys almost always never come to the office. They come to get parts, but they're out in the field and they get all of their
fixing stuff.
Yeah, exactly. They get all their direction from our office inside.
Well, what if you could kind of boil down a couple things? What do you enjoy kind of most about your job, and what do you enjoy least about your job? What would you say?
I enjoy the people most. People that are around me and know me, I'll talk to anybody, and I know a lot of people. So I like interacting with people, and that's the best part of my job. And I also like being part of a solution. If there's a problem, typically we can fix it. And not me, I don't mean me, but I like being a part of that and being able to give the customers what they're asking for and making sure that it works, and at the end having a successful, happy customer. The least thing I hate is the paperwork and the forecasting and the day-to-day, what I call mundane business items, but they're necessary. You got to do them.
Keep the train rolling down the train.
Yeah, but it's that's the least thing that I like. And then also the problems that arise, because not all things always go well and as planned. So you got to deal with the problems too, and sometimes that's an issue.
What about, I know for young people, this is a good question if you're watching or even young in your career. What's the relationship with your boss, and maybe bosses in the past, maybe that, I don't know what you're going to say about your current boss, but maybe sometimes whenever it's difficult to get along with the boss, how do you get through that? But what's your relationship with your current boss, and if you've had any of those challenges in the past, how do you get through those things?
Well, the current boss I have is probably the best person I've ever worked for. She's very competent and thoughtful, but she's also commonsensical. She understands our industry and understands. She's done a little bit of what I do now, so she understands what we're under, the pressures that maybe we're under, and the pressures that the customers put on you, and the market and economy today now is one of the issues. I've generally been able to get along with all of my bosses throughout my career. Have you ever had hiccups? Oh yeah, it's like whether you're being married or you got a best friend, you're always there's some problem going to arise somewhere. But I've generally had a pretty good relationship with all of the people that I've worked for. Sometimes there's one boss in particular, if you're wanting a negative note of that, is you sometimes have a boss that did what you do before. And all of us have our own complaints about whatever system we're working under or whatever it is that we're dealing with. And it seemed like the day that boss went into the management role, he forgot everything that he used to complain about.
Functional stuff, yeah.
So all of a sudden, he was the boss and you had to do it this way, but he didn't do it that way prior to getting to his boss.
Yeah, when they were working on it.
So sometimes you have those things, and you have the frustrations. That's a good word. You have those frustrations, but generally, I've been able to get along with all of my management peers and be successful at work, and them be successful as well.
All right, shifting gears a little bit, kind of from as we lay the groundwork there for what you do kind of day to day, shift to the faith component as we talk about faith at work. Are there other Christians at your workplace, and how does that help things, influence things, and kind of
Yes.
help you get through the day or through the month if you have a hard month or different things like that, sort of?
There are Christians at my workplace. In fact, the boss I have now and my first boss in my first sales job, they both were Christians, and it's. Do we talk about God every day, or do we pray? And no, we don't do that. A lot of that I think has to do with it being a workplace. We tend to not. We have everybody that believes in God. Not everybody professes to be Christian, if that makes any sense. But the good thing about it is we know we're all coming from the same place, and what helps is it helps with our honesty and integrity portion of the way we're supposed to be. The company I work for, well, both companies I've worked for had a very high level of integrity, but if you don't have a Christian background, sometimes those are different words. That word means different things to different people.
Can perhaps be a facade sometimes.
Yes.
Some company may have a facade of integrity, and it's not really
Right.
genuine, perhaps. You know,
Right.
but you're speaking more genuine. I mean,
From a
your-
genuine
your
integrity
company,
point
yeah.
of view, as a being able to work with and communicate with other Christians, it's easy to put integrity on the table and say, no, that's not right. And sometimes you have to, and so that's a good, very good thing about working with Christians. And I know in our Houston office, I'm not able to get over there much. They tend to have Bible studies a couple of times a week. They'll go in early before the workday starts, and a few of them get together in Bible study. So it's kind of neat to be able to work in a situation like that where people will still do those things.
Are there any kind of non-Christian influences in your office or workplace, or is it kind of
I think
every once in a while something raises its head a little bit?
Yeah, I mean,
little
anytime
off-color.
you get in the industrial market and the workplace, the thing that struggle with most is probably language, and sometimes the jokes you hear, and sometimes maybe even it's tough not to participate in, just the laughing part of it. But generally, everybody that I work with has a level of faith. Do they go to church every Sunday, or are they in the boat every Sunday?
Super
I don't know. Not something that we've discussed, but have some that are very, very conservative Christians from other denominations, and have some that just say, hey, look, I know who God is. But generally at our workplace, it keeps us honest, and keeps everybody from having to cringe with thinking about what somebody's going to say. It's pretty good.
Out of left field, or something.
Yeah, exactly.
What are some temptations that you see perhaps in your environment, either office environment or being out and around as you travel? I'm sure you're out probably 80% of the time, 90% of the time.
Yeah, probably 70% of the time. I'm in the office a lot because of the demands of paperwork and computers and all that. But
in both contexts, kind of what are some temptations, sin that you see that I need to go this way rather than that way, avoid those things where...
Well, one of them I mentioned just a second ago was maybe the language. You have to really pay attention to others may use language that they don't find offensive, or they may find it to be okay to use those words, and sometimes as that gets out there into the air, then all of a sudden that becomes could become a normal part of conversation and a normal part of vocabulary. And so you struggle not using the same words everybody does. Another thing sometimes is whether you cheat on an expense report. Maybe you didn't do what you said you did, or I stay away from that. I'm a firm believer that it will catch up with you sometime, some way. So I just figure I'll be honest, and if it cost me, it cost me. And then in the reporting or forecasting, we forecast and we tell the truth as much as we can. And I don't mean we tell the truth as much as we can. We tell the truth as we know it, and that based on your forecast and those kind of things. And but I won't do anything wrong or dishonest from a customer point of view. If we've told them we were going to do something, then we're going to do it. And we're not going to go back. Sometimes I say, well, we need to charge more for that. No, we told them we were going to do that. Yeah, but we're not going to make enough money on that. I said, no, that wasn't the customer's problem. We should have told them it was going to cost more to begin with. We told them we were going to do it. Unless
we need to do it at that price.
Yeah, if it's the customer's fault, then okay, we can probably negotiate that. But I'm not gonna, just because we didn't do our job right doesn't mean it's the customer's fault. And I struggle with that with a lot of people in our office.
What, them telling?
Well, them trying to get those of us that are in sales to go out and
fudge something
because not really fudge it, but because they made a mistake. Our mistake's not the customer mistake. So it's kind of fun sometimes. And I make mistakes too. I mean, I'll leave something off or I'll do something and they'll say, well, what do you? Well, I guess I got to eat it. That's me. Because the way we get paid is we get paid on how well the job does as far as cost versus sell price. So, and if it doesn't do as well as we had quoted it, then that affects me too. In the long run. In the long run. So
I know too. As you said, doing the wrong thing can catch up with you. But also, I know in the past I've heard you say, like, for yearly sales, I don't know what the numbers were, but you got trips and things like that. So I mean, in the opposite too. As you are honest and work hard and those type of things, then those things catch up with you.
There's plenty of benefits to that. And
about things that are good in sales. Have you ever seen or have you had someone in your crew that falsified reports and got in trouble for it and kind of got fired or anything? Or have you seen that, or is it pretty much?
I heard about it.
Oh, okay.
Not anything in my local or where I've ever been part of that particular office.
Exactly.
But there have been plenty that have.
Whether this company, you mean? Or
in our company, even in another company, and even when I worked for the other company, whether they would, there have been people that have been caught driving drunk in a company car, and so that's an automatic termination. And then from a negative point of view, people have falsified their expense reports and gotten into trouble. First of all, had to pay everything back that they falsified, and then lost their job. So it's there are plenty of negative consequences to doing the wrong thing. And for whatever reason, people think you can get away with it, and it just doesn't work.
And like you said, it'll catch up with you in the long run. If you get away with it for a little while. We see those stories sometimes on the news of.
And I'm not the person. It is hard for me to do something that I know is wrong and not feel bad about it.
Anyway,
and it kind of eats on you anyway. So I might as well just do the right thing.
I guess the next question is kind of along those lines. Why do you stay away from some of those things, and are you always able to stay away from those things? How are you able to kind of avoid some of those temptations?
Well, I try to stay away from most of them, and from a integrity point of view at work, I'm able to stay away from those just because my sales style is I'm wondering how, if I was buying what I'm selling, would I buy it?
Would you buy it from yourself?
Yeah, would I buy it? Would I buy it based on this price or based on the value of what we're doing? Because it's everything's got a cost, but then you got to determine, is it worth it? Is what you're selling, is it worth it to that customer? So I'm pretty well able to stay away from or stay in that integrity and honesty point because of that. One of the things that's tough for me at times is the coarse language. I was an athlete through high school and college, and unfortunately the coach's language is
not the best.
It's not always the best, and so you kind of pick that up as you go along. So from that point of view,
some of the plants,
and the plants. You just kind of, you always hear it, but you don't have to participate, and so that's what I tend to try to do. I try to keep my language clean and with words that you find readily in the dictionary, not words that you have to go search for. And so,
Urban Dictionary.
I don't want to go. I don't have to go to the Urban Dictionary to find my vocabulary. But that's one of the biggest temptations, I guess. And the other, the integrity point of view is I take pride in that. I'm able to tell people that I'm honest at what I do and how I do my business, and that's a
I
prideful
know
thing.
we haven't bought commercial air conditioners probably, but as we consume things on a day-to-day basis and a store's dishonest to us or company's dishonest to us, we get frustrated. So yeah, even if you charge more, potentially the customer may say, hey, we've dealt with them and we know they'll fix our stuff for us readily, and that we're going to go with them even though they're 10% more maybe or whatever. So that happens. Can be a good value from a company-wide perspective, like I said. Kind of the last kind of sum up question a little bit. How does doing your best at your job make you feel? We always kind of say, there's emotion with that, but what are kind of emotion plus functional plus whatever else?
Well, emotionally, it gives you that good feeling that you've done something, you've accomplished something. When there are times when you go to work and there's just nothing to do or seems like there's nothing to do. I guess in a sales guy's job, there's always something to do because you can go talk to somebody else.
Call someone new.
Yeah, but from a point of view of our day-to-day activities, if there's just nothing to do, I get more tired doing nothing than I do being busy
all day long. Yeah.
And so I like to keep active and keep my mind active. And when I get home, it's comforting to know that I've done what I was supposed to do. And that's where it goes from an emotional point of view. And then there's benefits to that. I mean, the customers understand that you work hard for them. They respect that and are willing to look at you and talk to you a little more. And then from a workplace standpoint, your coworkers know they can depend on you. If you say you're going to do something and you follow through, then they understand that. And then from your boss's point of view, they know I can depend on him when he says something, but also that I'm going to perform to the best of my ability.
And then, of course, and another lesson for young people, perspective-wise, I guess, is we're a little bit older than young people. Hopefully, we would define ourselves. But over time, as you perform and do your job, you get promotions. You get advancement. You get bonuses. I mentioned earlier, trips and things like that. So as you do your best, like you're supposed to do, and kind of show up. I know I tell young people sometimes, as you begin your first jobs, I worked at Walmart 2 summers through college, and there was about, I think, 15 people on the crew. And the second summer I worked there, I was about the 4th person in rank because so many people got fired for not showing up for work, and one girl was stealing donuts and kind of crazy. But whenever you get your job, show up on time and do your job. And you're going to be ahead of probably at least half the crowd, maybe 60 or 70% of the crowd. But show up, do your best, and you'll be blessed. So, any other closing comments? I know we've hit on a lot of things sort of there.
I enjoyed it. It was good talking about it. I don't always get to talk about what I do, but and if anybody's out there wondering what it's like doing what I do, I mean, I'm more than willing to sit down and talk to someone individually. Or if a young person's wondering, hey, what do I do? Then yeah, I mean, because when I started college, I thought I was going to be a pro baseball player. We'll get that out of the way quickly.
And that name was dispelled after a little while. Yeah.
After a little while, figured out that that is hard work. It's not just fun, and so. But then as I got out into the industry, I knew I wanted to sell and to communicate and to market things. So that's kind of where it went.
All right, let's have a prayer as we close.
Okay.
Father, thank you for the time that we've had to visit with Tracy, and pray that as folks view the video and glean from that we can learn some important spiritual lessons about life. We know we're talking about his job, but as we hear how that goes forth from day to day, young people, as I said, is beginning to work and going through your school perhaps can learn some lessons on the importance of hard work and honest work and working with integrity, and pray that we would all seek to do that from young to old and retired as we deal with people in the business place, business community, that we would be people of integrity and that others would know us by our fruit and by our words and by our actions. Thankful for your spirit that you give us to use as we walk day by day, not only as we're assembled as Christians, but as we go out into the workplace, that we're able to walk in your spirit and to be a good example to others, and pray that we would seek to do that, and that we would be a light shining to others as we go, so that others would know that we're your people and that we would point others to you as you call us to. Thankful for the blessings we have in you and we have in Jesus. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
Amen.